Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Overweight Cyclist, where I ride an MTB and summarize books. Today, I will summarize a mystery novel, I Have Some Questions for You, by Rebecca Makkai. Please enjoy the read and the ride. Main characters: Bodie Kane, Thalia Keith, Omar Evans, Mr. Block, Fran, Britt Alder, Jeff Richler, Robbie Sarenho. The story begins by giving off how Thalia Keith was murdered in the swimming pool with alcohol in her system and hints at the confession of Omar Evans. Bodie Keith, Thalia's roommate and the narrator, believes that Mr. Block has murdered Thalia and not Omar. An old friend sent Bodie Kane a video of a theater performance at Granby where she was the stage manager. Thalia Keith was last seen alive during the curtain call of this performance. As Bodie watched the video, she noticed many comments suggesting the case was mishandled. She also saw a flask on stage and Thalia mouthing the word, "What?" After 2 years of receiving the video, Bodie, now a successful podcaster and professor, was invited to teach at Granby for 2 weeks on podcasting. The nostalgia of being a student there and the mystery of Thalia's murder made her accept the offer from her old friend Fran. During the cab ride to Granby, Bodie remembers her unique ability to hear sensitive conversations through static on payphones and briefly wishes she could hear Mr. Block, a music teacher both she and Thalia were quite close with, saying something aggressive, making things convenient. During dinner with Fran and her wife Anne, who both teach at Granby, Fran invited Bodie to a small faculty party called Meaty Minnie on Friday. They also discussed Bodie's recent developments with her separated husband, Jerome. However, Bodie tactfully avoided mentioning Yahav, her new love interest. Recovering from a hangover from Fran's dinner, Bodie attended her class and met Petra and Madame Mancio, her former teacher. Petra casually mentioned keeping in touch with Denny Block and his wife, reminding Bodie of him again. During class, one of her students, Britt, chose Thalia Keith's murder as her podcast topic, knowing Bodie was Thalia's roommate and believing the wrong guy was in prison. Thalia arrived at Granby in a fog of rumors about an abortion and anorexia. Her beauty and slender figure caught the attention of popular junior girls who scooped her up. Boys were also drawn to Thalia for her attractiveness and newness, and they even created a bingo card to track who touched or made love to her. As fate would have it, Thalia became Bodie's roommate after a series of events involving her previous roommates. Britt was now working on the podcast's first episode, while Bodie talked about her obsession with Thalia's murder with her housemate and Fran. They discussed how the case was already resolved and the police caught Omar because he was stalking and dating Thalia. However, Bodie and Fran both agreed that Thalia was too busy hanging around Mr. Block to be dating Omar. Apparent from her behaviors, Thalia clearly had a crush on Mr. Block. Though they weren't close friends, she only confided in Bodie about him, as she helped him with musical performances and shared gossip. Bodie also often found her in his office, sprawled on the couch with her shoes off and staying back alone after practice. Thalia's yearbook entry also mentions Mr. Block, disguised as Deeb, confirming that they were indeed in love and sleeping together. The investigators couldn't be bothered with such a minute detail. As narrated by Britt, the podcast student, the cause of Thalia's death was drowning in the campus pool with open fracture wounds to the back of her skull and bruising on her neck. She was choked. The only official suspect, Omar Evans, a 25-year-old black man, worked as head athletic trainer at Granby. He confessed to the murder only to recant it the next day. Omar was convicted and sentenced to 60 years. Britt believed that Omar was a victim of an inexperienced and racist small-town police force. The evidence against Omar was mainly circumstantial, like his office being close to the pool door and the emergency exit with alarms not meant to be operated from outside. The 3 exceptions to this were: first, they discovered trace DNA from Omar inside the crotch area of Thalia's suit. While water couldn't have placed Omar's DNA there, it might have washed away someone else's. Second, there were 2 hairs found in Thalia's mouth, a 2 millimeter piece consistent with Omar's DNA, and a 3 centimeter strand from an unidentified person. Third, Omar had Facebooks, small notebooks containing headshots of each student. Under Thalia's photo, he had written jailbait and drawn a noose around her neck. He claimed to have never seen this before. Britt hadn't settled on a suspect yet, ruling out Thalia's boyfriend Robbie Serenho and an accidental death due to solid alibis and forensic evidence. Robbie was at a party in the woods with his friends during the incident. There were photographs. The crime scene was a mess after her body was found, with water everywhere, and police even disregarding the blood on the emergency exit doorframe, recognizing it as the work of uncareful paramedics. Body held back from mentioning Mr. Block at that point. Furthermore, Mr. Block also had an alibi, Bodhi herself. The night of the incident, after the musical, a microwave fire set off the alarm, and everyone had to stand outside for a long time. The musical crew, who went to the party in the woods, were late for check-in. When some girls returned, Jenny Osaka, the senior class president, checked off their names, including Thalia's, and handed the sheet to Miss Vogel. Miss Vogel didn't take attendance, so she too couldn't notice that Thalia was missing. After Thalia's body was found, the Granby police thought it was an accident for a few days until the state police arrived with the autopsy report. During this time, the pool was drained, compromising the crime scene. There was alcohol in Thalia's stomach, but it wasn't in her bloodstream yet. And since she wasn't with the crew in the woods, assumed it came from Omar at the gym. No one considered the flask seen in the video in the girl's hand. Between podcast interviews, Bodhi was sent a link by Britt to a YouTube personality named Dane Rubra, who was extremely obsessed with Thalia's murder. His theories focused on Pooja Sharma, the jealous friend, and Robbie Serenho, the boyfriend, as possible suspects. He believes the emergency exit was never alarmed when Thalia was murdered because campus security opened the doors for EMTs and no one heard an alarm going off. Both were rejected in Bodhi's mind. She couldn't think of anyone killing Thalia except Mr. Block. Britt tried to get an interview with Omar through his lawyer but didn't get a response. She decided to focus her podcast on the unanswered questions instead. How exactly did that emergency pool exit work in 1995? Who else might have had access to the building? What influence did the school have over the state police? What were the circumstances of Omar's confession? As these events were taking place, Omar, in the prison, was stabbed in the side and was lying on his stomach, holding the insufficient gauze to the wound. His heart rate was elevating, and he recognized the symptoms of shock. He was found unconscious in his bed with a high fever and was later admitted to Concord Hospital for scans. A glass shard used in the stabbing was lodged in his liver, causing internal bleeding and infection. He was now recovering well after surgery. Thalia and Robbie had their issues. Once, while venting about their relationship, Bodhi taught Thalia how to track her cycle and mark when she had sex in the Granby planner to avoid pregnancy scare. The police couldn't understand the blue, red, and purple dots in Thalia's planner and didn't bother to ask anyone about them. It wasn't even admitted to evidence. In photos from the woods, Robbie Serenho had mud splattered on the back of his sweatshirt. Some people on Reddit speculated it was blood. However, the timestamp on the photos showed he had only 10 minutes after the musical to change, kill Thalia, and return to the woods 1.4 miles away, which was theoretically impossible. Even if it were possible, a blood trail couldn't be on his back. Britt contacted Thalia's sister, Vanessa, and got her to send the investigation documents to Bodhi. Bodhi wanted more and asked Vanessa to see Thalia's planner. Vanessa agreed, but insisted on a physical meeting, not scans. Bodhi and Vanessa met in a cafe to review the planner together. The purple and blue dots confirmed Bodhi's suspicion that Thalia wasn't sleeping with Omar, but was with someone else, likely Mr. Block. Vanessa also mentioned she was in touch with Omar on her therapist's advice. That's how Bodhi learned about Omar's injury and hospitalization. She realized she needed to do something immediately. After her 2 weeks at Granby, Bodhi wondered if forensics had investigated the equipment shed near the gym, just 10 yards from the pool's emergency exit. If something had happened there, the pool would be the most logical place to drag someone. She shared her thoughts with Britt and Alder, another podcast student working on the case. Thanks to Britt and Adler's persistence, they found Thalia's blood on the bottom inside of the equipment room door and cracks in the cement floor. Even after 23 years, Thalia's blood remained. A hearing on a motion for retrial was granted against the facts that 1. It proved that Omar's defense team didn't do a proper investigation. 2. Omar couldn't hear anyone being murdered in the pool because it happened outside, in the shed. 3. Trace blood on the emergency door, implying that it was the way Thalia was brought in, not through the hallway outside Omar's office. 4. Several classmates were willing to testify that Thalia was drinking backstage during the musical. 5. Investigators failed to decode Thalia's planner. Bodhi returned to the town of Granby to testify about Mr. Block and Thalia's relations and make sense of her planner. But because the planner dots couldn't be definitively linked to Thalia's cycle and could represent anything, Omar's defense prevented Bodhi from testifying for fear the prosecution would claim they were planted later. She met her friend and crush, Jeff Richler, there, who believed more in the theory of Mr. Block being the killer than she did. She also accidentally met Dane Rubra and told him a false story about overhearing Mr. Block threatening Thalia. While Dane Rubra didn't share her enthusiasm against Mr. Block, she managed to get his name on the record. With Britt still testifying, Jeff, Adler, and Bodhi decided to go through the yearbooks, papers, and photos related to the case. The famous blood splatter photo of Robbie came up at one point. Alder agreed it wasn't blood, but argued that it was from a bike, doubling down on his argument. All three agreed. Although students didn't have bikes, the children of faculties surely did. They were wrong. Bodhi and Jeff and Britt and Alder were wrong. Dane Rubra was right. It wasn't Mr. Block, it was Robbie. Robbie left Camelot, the musical, and the group started walking to the party in the woods. But he wasn't with them. Robbie was left behind without anyone noticing his absence in the group of 19. He meets Thalia and maybe tries convincing her to come to the party, and they start fighting. Things at this point get nasty, and Robbie hits Thalia over and over, rendering her unconscious. He drags her limp body to the pool through the emergency door and drowns her in it. He panics. He needs an alibi, the party in the woods. Robbie finds himself a bike and rides it to the party, leaving it somewhere in the woods where his friends are drinking and taking photos. He turns on the timestamp and deletes a few photos in between, creating a solid alibi for himself. Later, Bodhi verified that Robbie made sure others remembered him being there, popping out of the woods and startling his friends. Robbie Serenho took the stand, but the defense couldn't make a strong case against him without more evidence. He remained silent during questioning and denied any role in Thalia Keith's murder. He got off. There was no case. Although there was also no case against Omar, his motion to retrial was denied, and he has been in prison ever since. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more such content. Please like and subscribe.